Designing circuit boards for power supplies has its own unique challenges. Thankfully, applying proper board layout techniques during design prevents seemingly random system failures later. Know the current routes. It is important to keep ground return paths short and wide. A return path that creates the smallest loop for the current to return should be provided. The currents should also return to separate grounds, though the grounds need to meet so they aren't floating. Put capacitors in parallel. To lower the inherent equivalent series resistance and equivalent series inductance of capacitors, designers frequently put multiple capacitors in parallel. By keeping the traces between the capacitors wide and short, you avoid the risk of having parasitic impedance, which can lead to unwanted electromagnetic interference, or EMI. Use EMI filters. When power leads enter or exit the enclosure of the power supply, they have the tendency to emit EMI, which can disrupt other electronic components. By using EMI filters, you can reduce the high-frequency noise from the PWM of a switching power supply within its desired levels. Think about assembly considerations. PCB assembly can be very tricky. Most components for high voltage and high current applications are usually bulky and heavy. This can be a problem when soldering because large components take time to heat up, and until they have sufficiently heated, surrounding components are deprived of heat. Components can also fall off during reflow if they're mounted on both sides of the board, so it's highly recommended to place all bulky and heavy components on one side. Using thermal relief can help mitigate the overall heat required to solder these types of parts, and should always be used as a good practice. Engineers will also put thermocouples near the larger components and on the heavy copper traces to assess the change in temperature during their passage through the reflow machine. Though designing PCBs for power supplies can be challenging, following these guidelines will help you achieve success. Contact Advanced Assembly to learn more about designing for PCB assembly at aapcb.com.